Hi guys, I'm here today with one of my favorite videos to make, which is the mid-year book freakout tag. This tag was originally created by Chammy and Ellie, and we'll leave links to their channels down below. So without further ado, let's just get into the video. So number 1 is the best book you've read so far this year, and for that I had to pick Wild Blue Wonder by Carly Sorosiak. This book completely took me by surprise. I originally wasn't really going to read it, but then Corey selected it as one of the books that she was going to recommend to me when we did the Coworker Chooses My TBR video. And I'm so happy she did because I fell head over heels in love with it. It just deeply, deeply affected me emotionally, and I really enjoyed reading it even though it was a hard read. It's a story that takes place in 2 different timelines. We have summertime, where our main character Quinn's family runs a summer camp, and then it flashes to the following winter as well. And you find out pretty early on that something really devastating happened that summer, and it's kind of just about Quinn dealing with her grief, and she also feels a lot of guilt as to what happened, and it's just a really beautiful story about death and family, and it also has a little bit of magic woven in, which I really liked, so highly recommend this one. It comes out at the end of June. And number 2 is the best sequel you've read so far this year, and for this I couldn't pick between 3. It's definitely been a year of awesome sequels for me. So first off is Thunderhead by Neil Schusterman, which is the sequel to Scythe. And obviously I can't talk too much about these sequels without spoiling the first book, but just trust me, they're incredible. All of these sequels take the world just so much farther than I ever imagined, and this one definitely lived up to the hype of Scythe. And then I had to include Legendary by Stephanie Garber, which is the sequel to Caraval. And I didn't think it was possible, but this book is even better than Caraval by leaps and bounds. I absolutely loved it. It was just so magical, and I can't wait to read it again. And then even though this sequel technically comes out next year, I was lucky enough to read an early copy, and that is The Wicked King by Holly Black, the sequel to The Cruel Prince. I've lent it to Corey actually, and as soon as she gives it back to me, I'm planning on reading it again because I can't stop thinking about it. If you liked The Cruel Prince, you're gonna like The Wicked King even more because it just expands the world so much. And there's just so much more like political intrigue and backstabbing and romance, and it's so good. Number 3 is a new release that you haven't read yet but really want to, and I absolutely had to mention Reaper at the Gates by Sabaa Tahir. This is one of my most anticipated reads of the entire year, and I just picked it up from the bookstore, but unfortunately I have so much other reading I have to do before I can get to this, and it's just sitting on my shelf looking at me, and I can't wait to get back into this world with these characters that I absolutely love. Number 4 is your most anticipated release for the second half of the year, and for this I have a few different answers. There just so happens to be a whole bunch of sequels from previous OwlCrate books coming out this year, so I'm really excited to get to them. So first up we have As She Descends by Jodi Meadows, which is the sequel to Before She Ignites, our past September pick, and I'm just so excited to see where this story kind of takes off from the first one. And then I'm really excited for The Lady's Guide to Petticoats and Piracy by Mackenzie Lee, which is the sequel to The Gentleman's Guide to Vice and Virtue, our July book pick last year. I absolutely love the characters in these stories, so I can't wait to see what this one brings us. And then there's also The Cursed Sea by Lauren DeStefano, which is the sequel to The Glass Spare, our November pick of last year. And I'm just so excited for all of these sequels because the first books were so good. Number 5 is your biggest disappointment so far this year, and unfortunately I have to say it's The Forest Queen by Betsy Cornwell. This book comes out in August, and it was pitched to me as like a gender-swapped Robin Hood, which sounded so cool, and I think I just went into it expecting something different than what it was, which caused me to be a bit more disappointed in the story. I was hoping for a lot of action, like a whole lot of humor and just tons of fun, and it's a way more quiet read. A lot of it is just about our main character kind of surviving in the woods, which honestly I usually like those types of stories, but that's just not what I was expecting, so it kind of fell short for me, unfortunately. Number 6 is your biggest surprise so far this year, and that definitely goes to The Loneliest Girl in the Universe by Lauren James. I typically do not tend to reach for sci-fi novels or thriller novels, and that's exactly what this book is. It's a brilliant mix of the two. I won't go into too many details because this is definitely the type of book that's best to go into blind and just let it surprise you, but it is about our main character, Romy, who has been living on a spaceship completely alone since she was 11 years old. She's the only living person on this ship, and the only person that she talks to is her therapist back in NASA on Earth. She comes to find out that another spaceship is on its way to meet hers, and she's really excited because she begins a communication with the person on that ship, and she's just so excited to have a friend to talk to, but as that ship gets closer, she realizes that everything is not as it seems, and it gets pretty scary. I read this in like one sitting because I just couldn't stop. I had to find out what was going to happen next, and I just loved it. So number 7 is your favorite new author, and this can either be a debut author or just an author that's new to you, and I have chosen Ashley Herring Blake, who's the author of Girl Made of Stars. This is not her first published novel, but it's the first one that I read, and I absolutely loved it. Just the way that she handles this really difficult topic just gave me like so much new respect for her, and I thought that this was just so beautifully written. It's a story about a girl whose best friend accuses her brother of raping her, which is devastating for many, many reasons. And it just talks about how this would realistically affect a family and affect a town, and I thought it was handled very well. It's also just a story about gender identity, love, friendship, all sorts of different things. It's not sad all the way throughout, but I just couldn't believe how much I liked it, and so I can't wait to pick up Ashley Herring Blake's other novels. Number 8 is your newest fictional crush, and I definitely had to pick Wesley from The Archived and The Unbound by Victoria Schwab. He's just so amazing. He is like a eyeliner-wearing, sarcastic punk guy, but he's also so caring, and I really like how he gets our main character Mackenzie out of her shell, and he's just incredibly loyal and funny, and yeah, for me, he's definitely my favorite character out of these books, and I just totally fell in love with him, especially when I read the sequel this year. And number 9 is your newest favorite character. And for this one, I can't talk too much about this character because not a whole lot has been released yet, but I was lucky enough to read the early copy of Vengeful by V.E. Schwab, which is the sequel to Vicious. And within Vengeful, you meet a new character named June, and I absolutely love her. She has the most interesting power, and I think that when people pick this book up in the fall, they're going to love her as well. Number 10 is a book that made you cry, and I have to mention Wild Blue Wonder again. I pretty much cried the entire time I read this, from the very beginning to the very end, for happy reasons and sad reasons, mostly because this is about the death of a friend, which is something that I recently went through last year, so it just really hit home to me, and it was just so beautiful as well. But it was also kind of like a therapeutic read, so I really appreciated it. Number 11 is a book that made you happy, and for that I'm going to pick The Crowns Game by Evelyn Skye. This is another book that Corey recommended to me in the Coworker Picks My TBR video, and I'm really happy she did. I had been curious about this book, but that challenge really caused me to like pick it up, and I loved it. It's just the type of YA book that completely sucks you in. The magic system and everything was so unique and cool. The romance I completely rooted for, and anytime I wasn't reading this book I was thinking about it, which I just love. I don't find that often. So even though there wasn't like a certain aspect to this book that made me happy, I just really enjoyed my time reading it, and I can't wait to read the sequel. Number 12 is the most beautiful book you've bought or received this year. For buying, I think it would have to be Ink by Alice Broadway. I just love what the publisher did with this book. It's got like this shiny copper dust jacket, but then when you take off the dust jacket, it's also beautiful underneath, and then even the end pages are beautiful, and yeah, I'm pretty much obsessed with it, and the story inside is also really great. And then definitely the most beautiful book I've received this year was given to me at Y'all West by an OwlCrate subscriber. Her name is Sam, and she like hand painted this beautiful copy of The Scorpio Races by Maggie Stiefvater, and she gave it to me as a gift because she knows how much I love Maggie's books. She wrote a really nice letter on the inside, and I just completely like can't even believe that someone wanted to make this for me, and I'm going to treasure it forever. Number 13 is what books do you need to read by the end of the year? And I am embarrassed to say, but I've never read the Grisha trilogy by Leigh Bardugo, which is Shadow and Bone, Siege and Storm, and Ruin and Rising. I love Six of Crows and Crooked Kingdom, and for some reason I'm really intimidated to kind of go back and read the original trilogy, but I just feel like I need to. So if you've read these and you love them, please leave a comment and let me know and encourage me to finally read these bad boys by the end of 2018. And number 14 is your favorite book community member, which is incredibly hard to choose because throughout OwlCrate I have met so many amazing people in the book community. But one person that stands out to me this year is Kate, who goes by Paper Fury on Instagram. She's just been such a wonderful rep for us, and even before she became a rep, I was such a big fan of her Instagram page. and it's been really inspiring to watch her go through a publishing journey. She recently put out her very first book, 1,000 Perfect Notes, and I cannot wait to get my hands on it. It's currently not released in North America, so I'm gonna have to order it online, but I can't wait to read it. I've heard such great things, and I'm just so proud of her, and yeah, I think she's awesome. So that was the mid-year book freakout tag. I had so much fun filming this, as always. The entire OwlCrate team are actually going to be doing this video as well, so keep an eye out for their videos later on in the month. And I would love to hear your answers to these questions as well, so feel free to leave comments down below. And if you like this video, please remember to give it a big thumbs up and subscribe to our channel if you haven't already. Happy reading, and thanks for being awesome. Bye!